Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. As usual, my name is Evore, and with me today I have
Rozette.
So Rozette is a breast cancer survivor, and she's here on my channel today to tell us about her story. Welcome, Rozette, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, so do you mind telling us about yourself, a brief story about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Rozette. I'm a 23-year cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer back in '98. And I'm a recent widow. I have a beautiful daughter who's 26, and I have 3 bonus children.
Gotcha. Okay, so I just have a few questions to ask you about your journey.
Okay.
First one is, how did this start? At what point did you realize that you had cancer, and what were the symptoms?
For me, well, first, I come from a long line of people who had breast cancer. Family members, several of them had breast cancer before me. When I was probably 25, I was kind of pregnant, I noticed that I had lumps in my breasts that were, one of them was right here, and it was like the size, it looked like a peanut, like it was peanut still in the shell, but was there. I didn't really have much breast pain. However, I had a lot of headaches, and so I was taking a lot of Advil and Tylenol, but I knew I had these lumps that I was ignoring. I think part of me thought if I ignored it, it would go away, and it didn't. I happened to work in the medical field, and one day I was bored, and I said, hey, I'd like to see the doctor. Went to see my doctor, who happened to be one of my coworkers, and I told her about it, and she had me lay back, and she made an appointment for me to to have a mammogram and also ultrasound. And I'll never forget when I had the ultrasound, because I'm in the medical field, I kind of know what the process is and everything. So when I went for the ultrasound, the tech was there doing their thing, and the look on her face just kind of, I knew something was up. And then she went to go get the radiologist, and the radiologist never comes in when you have this done. And so the radiologist came in, and he then actually took over and started looking around, and he looked at me, and I was like, so what do you see? And he says, I can't tell you. I will let your doctor know. And I'm like, okay, you just told me enough. Just by his face. They all looked at me like I was death warmed over. So from there, I went and had a general surgeon. My stuff kind of happened pretty quick because I was in the medical field, and we were able to push things a lot quicker for me. So within a few days, I saw the general surgeon, and he was like, "You got a little lump there." And he said, "We're going to look at it. You're going to be fine." And we're just gonna. I remember the day of the surgery, he says, we're going to make a little incision, we're going to take it out, and you're going to be left with just a little dimple there. It won't be any big deal, and then we're good to go. And apparently he opened me up and closed me up immediately because he just knew, and it was all over. So he closed me up immediately, and apparently during recovery, I sat straight up and started screaming. So he told my family that it is breast cancer. He could just tell. It is breast cancer. Don't tell her. We'll tell her tomorrow in the office. And so that night I went home, and my boyfriend at the time told me that tomorrow we're going to the doctor. Your parents already know. I took the phone off the hook, and you have breast cancer.
Oh, he told you? He
told me because the year before, his brother had cancer, and the same thing happened. Like, the surgeon came out and told everybody. His brother was so hurt that everybody knew before him, and he didn't want me to be in that same position. So he told me immediately, and I looked over at the time. I had a 22-month-old daughter. By the way, it was a bad relationship. I had been with him for 12 years at that point. Wasn't married to him because I knew that I never wanted to get divorced, and he was not the guy.
Yeah.
He wasn't a good guy. So the first thought I had was like, I'm never going to know what it's like to be loved, because immediately I thought I was going to die. Like, that was my first thought. When he said, you have breast cancer, I don't know what he said after that. I just thought, I'm going to die, and I'm going to die without knowing what it's like to be loved. Did I answer your question? I don't know.
No question.
Okay. I already forgot the question.
No, I asked, like, how did it start? What were the symptoms? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really didn't have pain, just really headaches and a lot of bruising. But the bruising was because I was taking so many aspirin that it was spitting out my blood, and so tons of bruising all over. So
yeah. And then you noticed the lumps, which was what led you to...
Yeah. And they were visual. I mean, you could... If I had my shirt off, you would be able to see them.
Oh.
Yeah, I was really in denial, which is why she pushed me through getting the referrals and all of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, wow. And that was back in 98.
98.
Wow. Okay, so what changed for you? How did you react to the news? Okay. Yeah. How did you react to the news? What were your first thoughts, and what were your first thoughts when you found out, like, when your boyfriend then told you, you know?
Yeah, so the first thought was, I'm not going to know what it's like to be loved.
Yeah.
My next thought was, I looked over at my daughter, who was 18 months at the time, and I was like, I'm not going to see her grow up. I'm not going to take her to school. I'm not going to be able to see anything that she does. And at the time, I was a baby Christian, so I was an atheist before that. And I just got to where I was believing in God. And I had my Bible, and it was a King James version, so I really didn't understand it very much. But I had it, and I was a new Christian. And I remember being mad. And like I said, her dad was never really there. And so after he told me, like within the first couple of days or whatever, he took off, spent the night out somewhere. And then he came home, and he left some food on a counter, on a thing like this, just a table. And my daughter, I couldn't get out of bed, and my daughter was trying to eat it. And I couldn't get I had to encourage her to get me the phone, because I couldn't get out of bed to get the phone. And she did, and called the babysitter, and the babysitter broke the door down and took her so that I could sit there. But yeah, so when I first found out, I was very distraught. I was very angry with God, and I wanted to know what I did that was so bad, because I heard about grace. I'd never heard about grace. I didn't have a family that were in my family. From the time I was like 9 till I moved out of the house, I was told all these things about me, and I didn't know anything about grace. And I found out about grace, and I was like, oh my gosh, you mean all these bad things my family told me about me, I can be forgiven for? And then this happens, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Apparently, what did I do that was so bad that you did this to me?
Yeah.
So
how did you come out of that?
I came out of that I had a yelling conversation with God, and I called him every name in the book. Every name in the book. I made up names for him. And I was yelling on my bed, and just screaming, and I was just cursing. And the more I cursed and the more I yelled at him, the more the words began to change, and it turned into, I can do anything through Christ who gives me strength. I can do anything through Christ who gives me strength. I can do anything through Christ who gives me strength. And I repeated that over and over again, and I can't tell you if it was for 5 minutes or an hour. I can't tell you. All I know is that a peace came over me, and the only way I can describe the experience was white leaving. Because it was nothing, there are no words to compare to the experience that I had. It's like if you tried to describe a house and all you told somebody was a square triangle, and that was you describing a house. That's the way it was, this experience that I had. And this peace came over me that I knew that it was going to be gone. I just knew it was going to be gone. And at that point, it was no longer about me and my cancer. It was about me and him. Mm-hmm. And that became my focus, was me and him. And it was that encounter that also had me, I can't stay in this relationship. I have to leave, because I I can't be fighting with him about things. I need to be fighting for my life because I need to be here for her, my daughter. And everything switched at that point, and I'm just like, I just need to do what I need to do. And it was the best experience ever. I don't wish cancer on anybody, but for me, it brought me so close to God that anything that should come after that was a piece of cake, because I knew what he took me through. I knew what he helped me with. I knew the peace that came to me out of nowhere. And I wouldn't give up that experience or that perception on life for anything. So
let me ask, you said that when you were diagnosed, you felt immediately you felt you were going to die. Why did you feel that way? Is it because you're in the medical field and you have seen a lot of people die from cancer, or what made you like draw up that conclusion that, oh my God, I have cancer, this is the end, I'm not going to be loved, I'm not going to see my child grow up? Did you have anybody with cancer in your family that died afterwards?
Yes,
like
several members of my family. Several. I remember being a kid, and it seemed like every Christmas we were going to San Antonio for a funeral because somebody died of cancer. And so that's what I knew from cancer, was that you got it and then you died. And I think people hear the word cancer, and that's the one thing. If you tell somebody cancer, you see it on people's faces. They're like, you know, even today, if you hear somebody has cancer, people immediately think, oh my gosh. Or if they hear that you had cancer, they're like, oh my gosh, like you did some major thing because you survived it, because everybody dies from it, right? So that's why I immediately thought that. It's because too many family members had already passed at that point. So that's why.
Gotcha. So did you ever do the gene test? Because they say if you have a family member that has it, then there's the test you can do to see if you carry it.
Yes. So back then, 23 years ago, they didn't have BRCA. Okay. They did have what was called the HER2 test. And I did that, and it just so happens after I was diagnosed, 3 months later, a cousin of mine was diagnosed. And then a month after that, another cousin was diagnosed. And my aunt, who had breast cancer 18 years ago, and been in remission the whole time, all of a sudden it came back in her lungs. So there were 4 of us alive who were going through it. And so we did the HER2 and it came back with no genetic anything. And what my doctor told me, Dr. Casimir, she said, that just means they haven't found that gene yet. It's so prevalent in your family, they just haven't found that gene yet. So then BRCA came along, and when my daughter was older, we did the BRCA, and it didn't show up there either. But it has to be.
Yeah. So next question is, how did your family and friends take it? Did you feel the need to go public with it, or was it something that you really didn't want to talk about?
A little of all of that. Back in '98, we didn't have Facebook, so there wasn't any really public about it. There was no social media or anything, so my family knew. My dad, according to my dad wasn't a talker. He was a Hispanic man, and he didn't really show his feelings. But from the moment I was diagnosed until my last treatment, my dad was the one who took me to all my appointments. He owned his own business. He was always busy, but if I had an appointment, he never said, oh, I'm really busy, but I'm going to take time. He just did it. And so he took me to all my appointments. My mom was devastated, but my dad's girlfriend said that he wept. That he wept when he found out that I had it. And I do remember this. Okay, so remember I said that all of my family have been dying? Well, part of the things that I remember is that every time somebody... my dad was really good about this, about family, and he believed in celebrating somebody while they were still alive. So if somebody was near the end, my dad, it was in San Antonio because that's where all the family lived, my dad would have a big party in San Antonio, and there would be barbecue and mariachi players, and all the family would show up to say their goodbyes while the person was still coherent. They may not die for months, right? But my dad, as soon as we knew that would happen. So I remember my dad driving me home from one of my appointments, and this is like in like March or something, and my dad says, Mija, we're going to have, Mija means daughter in Spanish, my daughter, Mija, we're going to have your birthday party. My birthday's December 1st. We're going to have it in July. And I'm like, really? He goes, yeah, we're going to have it in July. We're going to do it in San Antonio. I'm like, why? Well, we just want to make sure we celebrate it. And I'm like, you think I'm going to die? You think I'm going to die? I'm like, no, we're not having this party because I'm not dying. Well, I'm not having this party because I'm not dying. He goes, it's just for, I'm like, nope, I'm not having that party. So I did, everybody kind of knew, people at work knew. I tried to hide it. I worked in pediatrics. And I was at the front a lot, and so I tried to hide it from the kids. So I didn't like wearing a wig, but I wore a wig because I didn't want to scare the kids. I would pencil on my eyebrows because I didn't want to scare the kids. Every once in a while, somebody would have to say Rozette because during the day I would do this and I would wipe off one of my eyebrows, so I only have one on. So, or I stuffed my bra when I did a mastectomy. I stuffed my bra with a tube sock, and it would start popping up on my shirt, and they're like, put it down. So, so everybody kind of knew, but I didn't like that I was always Rozette, you know, the one with cancer. Rozette, the one with cancer. That was my name. And I was like, I'm so much more than my cancer. I'm not just cancer. I'm a mother, you know, I'm a co-worker, I'm a friend, I'm a cousin. I'm so much more. And if my life was a box, cancer is just this little thing over here that I'm going through. Yeah. And I didn't want to be identified by that. So while I didn't mind people knowing, I didn't like being labeled Rozette, you know, the one with breast cancer. So, yeah, but people at work knew, and like I said, there wasn't social media back then, so it wasn't Instagram, Facebook, you know, I don't even think Wikipedia or anything like that. Google was around back then, so.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about your chemo experience, chemo, if you did radiation, how was the journey, how was it mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you know, basically the whole cancer journey, medical wise.
Sure. So I had a port put in. Probably still have my scar somewhere. I guess you can feel it. Yeah. Can you see it? I don't even know where it is right now. But I do have a scar because they put a port in because I had 4 rounds of chemo. And then they did a mastectomy of the breast that had breast cancer in it. And then I did 4 more rounds of chemo, a stronger chemo. And then 6 weeks of radiation, and then reconstruction 4 months later. My chemos, my first one, I remember I was tired, and I remember that I felt like I had every possible symptom, the nausea and everything. My chemo, the first one, the cocktail was 5-FU, adrenomycin, and then something else. I don't know what the third one is. But I would have it on a Friday, once every 3 weeks. And so I'd have it on a Friday. I would go in, do my blood work just to make sure that my blood count was strong enough so I could take it. And I would sit at this room with all these people in it, or you could sit in a room by yourself if you want to. Sometimes I didn't want to sit with everybody. I would sit in the room. But that was my spiritual journey. That was the time that I felt so close to God that anywhere I sat, all I did was pray for people. And I always felt like God was like this buddy that was like just sitting there with me, like laughing with me and talking to me. And so I would sit there and you would get this 4-hour drip. I think the 4-hour drip was for the nausea medicine. And then they would put a fanny pack on me, and there was this, it had all the drugs in the bag, and a little, I don't know, pump, and it would go bzzz every so often to slowly drip it in. And so it would go all the way till Sunday, and I had the most energy during that time period because of one of the medications that was in there. And then my dad would drive me on Sunday, and I would go to the place, and they would unplug me. And it was literally like taking the energy. The moment they pulled it, my energy was down, and I would sleep until Wednesday. And then I'd go back to work, and I would get stronger, stronger, and stronger. And then the next Friday would come, and I would have started over again. And for me, some of the side effects were I did lose my hair. And so because I lost my hair a couple of times, I wrote on my head, and I'm not supposed to put ink on your head, but I wrote on my head having a bad hair day because that was fall too. No, I just wrote it on there.
Oh, okay.
As a joke, having a bad hair day. And then just because, at home I wore a bandana, and my daughter thought, because she was young, she thought every mom didn't have hair at home. So when she wanted to go outside, she'd bring me my wig. Can we go outside? And I'm like, sure. And so I put on my wig to go outside with her. For me, I love the fact that my face was clear, because the medicines killed everything, including all the bacteria and stuff that get in your face to make you break out. So my face was clear. I didn't have to shave. I remember that. That was so nice. I'm one of these people who have to shave at the end of the day. So it was so nice not having to shave. I had no hair in my arms. That was nice. I don't know about my eyebrows. I didn't have them. I had to pencil those on, and I used to have these really bad sideburns. They used to make fun of me because I had these really big sideburns, and they were gone. That was amazing. So my skin glowed, but I did look like Uncle Fester. Do you know who Uncle Fester is? Okay. Uncle Fester from the Addams Family, from the original one back in the 50s or 60s, because I got these dark circles under my eyes. My nail beds turned black. Yeah. And then because of the steroids I was having to take, my face got really puffy, and then I had no hair. So I looked just like Uncle Fester. I would wear my wig during the day and did what I could. But I would say my radiation was, I do remember when I was doing radiation, they told me I couldn't wash the area because they would mark you, right? They would take these markers and put these markers on you because they radiate like literally like exactly where they want to go. It's so precise. So you go in and they do this pinpoint thing, and then they put these markings on you, and they're kind of permanent, but they're not. So you can't take a bath. Like, you can't wash that area. And I remember back then I used to share a space, gosh, no bigger than this. And there was one desk facing that way, one desk facing this way, and then my office manager was up here. And I remember going in there, and I couldn't wear deodorant. And I couldn't wash the area. So I said, here's the deal. I have to go through these radiations, and they put these markings on me, and I showed her. I said, I'm not allowed to wash this area, which means I may get funky. And just so you know. And she goes, okay. And so I don't remember what it smelled like 23 years ago, but I'm sure it wasn't nice. And then I did 4 more rounds of a tougher medication, and that one took all of my eyelashes and all of the rest of my brows. And that one was a little harder, and because it was so much harder and they had to get my counts back up so quickly, that they would give me this Neupogen shot. And this Neupogen shot was supposed to make your body produce white blood cells, to fight. And the white blood cells come from your joints. And so you would end up with all this joint pain. But I had a juicer and somebody given me, and a recipe. And of the 4, there was only one, my first one, I had to get the Neupogen shot until I did this recipe. And once I did the recipe every day, I never had to again. My counts automatically came up, and so I didn't have to get that horrible Neupogen shot. But for me, it wasn't hard. It was a blessing. It was the most amazing time of my life when it came to my faith with God, because as a baby Christian, I was growing and I was leaning on Him, and He was loving on me. And he was just giving me so many of the plans that he had for the future for me. And I was writing him down as fast as I could. And it was just the most amazing time for me. And I love the time period for my daughter because she doesn't remember it. Back then, I was kind of mad at first. I'm like, why would you do this for me when she's so young? But she doesn't remember. And I love that. I love that she doesn't remember that, Yeah. So, yeah, I loved it. I know that's hard to say, and I know that people who are going through it right now may not understand it, but my time right back then, all the bad is overshadowed by all the blessings that I have received now that I look back 23 years. All the blessings I received because of that. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, is being put in His arms,
So you mentioned that you had the mastectomy on one side. Did you do it on both sides, or was it?
Yes. So yes, when when I was first diagnosed and I saw Dr. Casimir, my oncologist, she had us record our first session where she goes over everything that's going to happen, right? And I remember she's going through, I'm like, wait. Because anytime I'd ever seen anybody with cancer, they were always looked thin, and I always struggled with weight. And I was like, okay, so I just have a question for you. She's like, yes. She goes, I'm like, how much weight am I going to lose? And she was like, well, because you'll be on steroids and blah, blah, blah. Oh, I lost my sense of taste. That's another thing. I lost my sense of taste. She goes, you tend to gain weight.
I had that one before.
You have it? Oh, I lost my sense of taste.
I know about the fingernails.
No, I had lost my sense of taste, and everything tastes like cardboard. So when you crave something sweet, you just kept eating it. And when you crave something salty, you just kept eating it because you never could satisfy that need. And so when she said, she says, well, you're going to gain weight on this medicine, on this thing. And you can hear me on the tape just go, oh, like, I don't even get that. But then her next line is, but, she goes, but at the end of the day, when all is said and done, at the very end, you are going to get a tummy tuck and new boobs. I'm like, well, okay, let's go, let's do it. And so after my radiation, I had to wait for the skin to heal. And then I went in for a 20-hour procedure, which back then was like revolutionary, where they take your 2 top stomach muscles and they sever them and they route them up here, and they do the second mastectomy, and they route the blood flow up here so you have blood flow, and then they take the fat and stuff from your tummy and they make your breasts. And back then I was one of the first people to have it done. And so they didn't even have a procedure code for it back then for billing insurance companies. But so I did have a double mastectomy, and then they did, after the boobs settled, whatever, he then reconstructed my breasts by making, he made clovers. And the weirdest thing, because, oh, you have no feeling, by the way, you have no feeling here. And so while you're awake, he just makes these clovers and he folds them over and then he ties them around, and that scarring that creates is your nipple. And then you get them colored in. Yeah, that's how they did it back then. I'm assuming that's still sort of kind of how they do some of them. They have new techniques now, but yeah. And I remember when I got them. So another thing that I thought I forgot about is that I was an almost A breast size. Like, I didn't even wear an A cup. I was so small up here that I didn't even wear an A cup. So when they told me I had breast cancer, I'm like, what?
Like, I get that feeling. Yeah. What do you?
I'm like, where?
What is, like,
are you telling me this isn't a boob? This is all cancer? So yeah. So it was almost A, and I remember I told him I wanted to be a full C. So he made me a full C. Well, I couldn't tell. It feels like just pressure of a pillow being against you, and I wasn't used to the distance that you need. And where I worked in the middle, go to medical records. Okay, so back then they didn't have electronic medical records. They had the kind that were these rolling things, and they weren't that wide. And I would go past people at work, and I was constantly rubbing my breasts against people because I didn't know how to judge, and I couldn't tell that that's what I was doing because I had no feeling. So I'm just constantly like, Rozette, you've got to open up the files more. Quit rubbing your boobs on me. And I'm like, okay. So yeah. So they made bigger boobs, and they also took some of my skin. Okay, so they took some of your skin and they put it up here, and of course I have a little bit of abdominal whatever fuzz, peach fuzz here stuff, and I'm like, I remember asking him, like, am I going to now have hairy boobs?
Oh my God.
and he's like, I've never had anybody ask that before. I'm like, well, I gotta ask. Like, does my skin still remember that it grew hair there?
Yeah.
And is it going to grow hair? And he's like, I don't know. You'll have to tell me. And oh yeah, it does. So just so you know, if you're thinking about it, that's one of the downsides to it is that you possibly can grow hair there. And when you do stomach crunches, your stomach that's up here does not know it's not down here. So when you're doing stomach crunches, this is working out just the same. So if you have a sore stomach, you will have sore boobs.
So that's the first time I'm hearing that. So like, I know people take, I don't know about the stomach, I've never even hit that before, but I know people take skin from their lap and put here. So you're saying that like if you take from your stomach, it's whatever happens in your stomach, if you grow hair there or whatever, it's still going to be.
Yeah, so you have a 6-pack here, right?
Yeah.
Right, you have a 6-pack. Well, they take the top 2. And what they do is they sever, because you have 2 bloodlines that go to your lower body, okay? And of those 2, from my understanding, they take one of those bloodlines because you can't just put silicone here, you can't just put fat here. There has to be blood going to the area. So they take one of those bloodlines. So what they basically did is they cut like this, okay? They just and then they made a hole, at least on this one they made a hole like this, and he goes in and he pulls his hands through and he cuts it off, and then he pulls it through and makes the breasts up here. So there's a blood supply there. He takes some of your fat that's there and the skin, and he rebuilds. Well, that's what he did on this side. On this side, he just took the fat. He didn't take the skin. And but because he has severed that, but your mind doesn't know that. Your mind doesn't know that these muscles are up here. So when you do stomach crunches, they do the same thing. Yeah. It's called a tram flap thing. It's one of the different, some people, there's different things that people do, but that's what I did. So, but yeah, I've heard of people getting the leg. They didn't do that back then. So.
Gotcha. I know you told us that you had a boyfriend then when you were diagnosed. So at what point did your husband, when did you find love again? And then, or when did you finally find love? And at what stage were you done with the whole cancer? Like, how was the journey with him? Or was there ever a journey with him in terms of cancer?
He came after cancer.
Okay.
So I was a year and a half out from my surgeries. He was a year and a half after my surgeries, but even though you're done with cancer, like you're done with the treatments, you're still dealing with the effects of cancer.
Yeah.
You are still dealing with this fear of every time you go in for a test, right? A checkup, it may come back and you have to start again. So for me, when I started dating him, I started reading our old chats because I printed them out. And I remember he asked for a picture of me, because this is before we video chatting and all that kind of stuff, right? He asked for a picture of me. I'm like, what's more important to show you is a picture of me in the middle of chemos. And he was like, why? And I said, because at any point in time, if it should ever come back again, I know within 6 weeks I'm going to look like this again, like Uncle Fester. And I need you to know this going in, right? And I remember him writing back that, no, don't worry about that. I'm not that kind of person or whatever. And so he didn't have to deal with that, but he did have to deal with me being insecure about things. And he did call my boobs Barbie boobs, because my tattooing had gone away. So I was just the shape of a breast without any nipples. And so, Barbie dolls don't have nipples, right? So he would call me Barbie boobs. And he would ask, he's like, I wonder what they would look like with them on. And so I remember him taking a marker at one point and taking a marker, he put a brown marker and he made them just to see what they would look like on me, just so that he could see them. But one of the things before he passed away, I was looking into getting him done, and then I kind of put it off for a little bit. But after he passed, I decided for him, even though he wouldn't be here, is to go ahead and do that. But yeah, so as a matter of fact, he was part of the promises. Remember I told you God was giving me things? He was part of those promises, because when I was going through the middle chemos, I was planning my wedding. I wasn't even dating. I was planning my wedding. It was going to be a Christmas wedding. It was going to be Christmas trees on each side of the altar. And there were going to be lights everywhere. And everybody's gift going home was going to be these beautiful cream-colored balls with these silver ribbons with Mr. and Mrs. on it. And I didn't know what I was going to be wearing. I didn't plan out the dress. And there were going to be lights on top. And I didn't know who the guy was, because I wasn't even dating at the time. But during our relationship, I went to a retreat, and at this retreat, we were told to talk about God, and we were all going to be given these pearl necklaces and blah, blah, blah. And this retreat was called Treasures in Heaven. And they had these big balls that they had painted like pearls, right? And these big treasure chests and all these things coming out and letting us know that when you, there are all of these prayers in heaven waiting to be poured out if you just ask for them. And so all these treasures in heaven were coming in. At the front of the room, they had these two big chairs, and these two big chairs had King of Kings, Lord of Lords on the banners on there. And then on each side of the stage, there were these huge angels, these white angels with white lights all over them with trumpets, and they had like tulle or something all inside, and all these white lights around it. And I remember sitting there asking God about Craig, going, what do you want? Like, is this right? Should I be doing this? God, I want your input on this. And God was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm talking to you about Craig. And he goes, no. What are you doing? You're supposed to be here with me. I'm like, I am here with you. I'm asking you about Craig. And he was like, no. You are supposed to be here about me. When you worry about the relationship you have with me, as much as you worry about this relationship you have with a man, when you decide to make me your groom, I will take everything that you want and I will manifest it into a man, and he will love you with my love. He will see you through my eyes. He will hold you with my arms, and he will whisper the plans I have for you. But you have to want to be my bride. Yeah. Will you marry me first? Oof. And I was like,
goosebumps.
Yes. I was like, yeah. I was like, yes, I will. And so I did. And he took all of that and he manifested that in my husband. And when I looked at the room that I was in, that he asked me to be his bridegroom in, I had taken God's vision and kind of missed a little bit of it, because the Christmas trees that I thought I had at each side were actually the trumpets, the angels with the trumpets. And the lights that I envisioned on top was over this place. They had put all these lights to be like jewels coming down. And the pearl balls that everybody was getting, at that retreat, every one of us was given a pearl necklace. Mm. Somebody had donated pearl necklaces. And so everything was planned just as God had envisioned for me, but I mistook it to be the wedding to a man, and it was the wedding to him. And I remember when he told me, he says, now that you've agreed to be my bride, I want you to, because you had to make a line to go get your pearls. He goes, I want you to walk as if you're getting married. I'm like, okay. So, of course, this whole time before this, I'm like this praying, and I'm praying like that, and I'm like, totally okay with it. And then I look up, and I see all these women, and they're all sitting there talking, and I feel kind of dumb, kind of like walking in line like this, right? And everybody's kind of looking at me, and I'm just doing the steps. But the closer I got, the more drunk I felt in the spirit. And I remember one of the ladies was walking down the stairs, and I looked at her, and I said, I see you've met my husband. Aww. And I said it as if I was talking about an earthly husband. I see you, because I could see the joy on her face, and I knew the kind of love that God gave. And I said, I see you've met your husband. And so I was married to him, and I remember at my husband's funeral, all the women who said that he brought joy. Because he did. He loved with God's love. And he loved you where you are. But all of that came during that time. That's why I say that time period with God, that time period, my breast cancer, my radiation, my chemos, that was the best time, because God was giving me hints of this bridegroom that we were going to become this one. And that's how I felt. I was in the middle of this romance with God that everything else was put to the side. So
That's see, I'm having a lot of goosebumps now. That's such an amazing story. Like, I'm just here sitting down and I'm like thinking, how did you go from being an atheist to talking about and loving God so much? And I mean, it's just really amazing to see. When we had a conversation a few weeks ago and you sent me that voice note, I actually saved it. I was like, and I called my mom and I told her that I know I was led to do this, but I didn't really have like a scripture to back it up, and I wasn't necessarily looking for. I didn't even know that I needed one, and then you sent it to me, and then I just had this deeper understanding that what I'm doing actually has a meaning. And it was just so beautiful to see. I was like, I need to come and interview you, because it was just, when you're not looking for something, but it just comes to you, and then you realize that you needed it. Mm. That's how I felt when you sent me that voice note, and then I had to go to, I think it was it Isaiah 61 or something? I had to go to the Bible.
Isaiah 61.
Yeah, I had to go read it. I was like, oh my God. I didn't even read the Bible to start doing this, but then what I'm actually doing is there. Like,
God, But God is so good. That's the way He works. He doesn't always have to wait for you to find the mission. He's like, I've got the mission for you. A friend of mine told me that, God gives you the desires of your heart, and I used to think that meant He gives you whatever you want. He places the desire in your heart of what He wants that mission is, if we will listen to it, and you listened to it. And because you listened to it without even knowing it, He put it in you for that crown of beauty instead of ashes, right? The oil of gladness instead of mourning. And that is, man, when I saw everything that you did, I was like, oh my gosh. And Isaiah 61 just like came, oh, now I'm getting goosebumps. Isaiah 61 just came, I'm like, she is living that out. She is living out Isaiah 61. And I was just like, that is amazing. Each one of us is given a God-given dream. Every single one of us is given a God-given dream. And being able to live that out and knowing what it is the most amazing thing, the most fulfilling thing that you can possibly do. And the fact that you do that, oh, girl,
it's good. I just love the way you talk about God. It's just like, it's just really amazing to see. And another thing I'm taking out of what you said today is the fact that, you were at this point where you got the cancer and you felt like you weren't going to find love and yada yada, and then you established an amazing relationship with God. And then all of a sudden things started falling in place. You found the love of your life, which is so amazing, because a lot of people go through cancer and they feel like that's the end, the same way you felt. Like, they're not, who's going to love me without breasts? Who's going to love me with, I don't have any, So it's just amazing to see that even after that. That's why I asked, like, when did He come into your life? Was it during or after? So He came into your life after. So, like, He saw you for who you were. He wasn't getting in the relationship just for whatever vain reason. Like, He could see, like, this is me. You take me as I am. And He still loved you. And honestly, that can only be good.
Yeah.
That can only be
He
good.
saw me through God's eyes.
That can only be good.
So
that's amazing. So this is for people out there that are going through, it may not even be cancer, it may be just something, one thing or the other. Don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. Somebody still love you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And loving Him first. Yeah. Loving Him first. When I decided to make that, and then He told me not to speak to Craig for 40 days.
Oh.
And that was going to be hard. And I remember telling my friends, because I used to be part of a singles group at church, and I remember telling them I'm not supposed to talk to him for 40 days. And they said, aren't you worried he's going to find somebody else? Aren't you worried that he's going to forget about you? And I'm like, I have total faith in God that if that does happen, I know that it's for the better. I know that there's glory to glory to glory. And so I wasn't worried at all, because I already had my man. I had God. I just got married. I was a newlywed. I didn't care about that. I'll do the 40 days. That's no big deal, because I was already in love, So, and the funny thing is, if you look at our chats, that's what he was attracted to, was my love of God. It was that. That was the beauty that he saw.
That's amazing.
So.
That's amazing. But okay, so I just have one more question for you. So I'm sure I can stress and emphasize how important a good support system is. So what would you like to say to survivors and their families that are just about to start going through the process, or that are still going through the process?
I would say, when you're starting out, wherever you are in your faith, that hang on tight, that He is there for you, that grab your Bible and go. When I think about how Paul talked about 3 times he had a thorn stuck in his side, 3 times he asked God to take it from him, and God said, no, my grace is sufficient for you, because in your weakness my strength is made perfect. Remember that every time you get sick. Remember that His strength becomes stronger when you are weak. Remember that you can do anything through Christ who gives you strength. Surround yourself with powerful prayers, powerful, prayerful people. Surround yourself with positivity. Don't let anybody negative around you, because you don't need that. You are in a fight. And you need as much positive around you as you can have around you. And if you can have other survivors around you, if you can have other people going through it, there's something about being with people that are struggling through the same thing, that y'all can feed off each other in a good way. Okay, don't commiserate with them, but y'all can feed off each other in a good way. And you know that you're not alone. See, that's one of the things the liar will try to do to you. He will tell you that you are the only one going through this. He will tell you that nobody else is going through this, that you need to keep it to yourself. And I'm going to say that is the liar talking. That is not what God says. And so we were made for union. And God came down in the flesh, right? Because we were meant to be with people. And so find your people. Find your God-filled people and be around them. And I know sometimes you may be angry with God. That's okay. It's okay to be angry. I was angry with God. And through that anger came so much love. And that's what I would say. Be honest, because God knows your heart. So don't fake it. Mm-hmm. Be honest with God, because He wants to know that you're totally surrendering to Him. And when you totally surrender, that means you give Him everything. You give Him the hate that you have about it. You give Him the anger that you have. You give Him the tiredness. You give Him everything, because anything you hold back, He knows you haven't gotten it over yet. Mm-hmm. And you need to surrender it. So that's what, get a support system. Facebook has amazing support systems on there. If you can find one that says Christian, a Christian-based something, do that, and you will find beautiful men and women who are there struggling the same fight, there to cheer each other on and to help each other when one gets weary. So that's what I would say.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. You've really been a breath of fresh air. Like, your belief in God is just so amazing, and I feel like it's something that would make anyone actually believe, because we can see it actually reflecting on you. Mm-hmm. So that's quite amazing. Thank you. We're going to go into the second phase of the session. Mm-hmm. Right now, we're going to do her makeup right now, and we're going to be right back. So you guys, stay tuned. everyone, welcome back. So we're done with her makeup. Yay!
I love it.
I'm glad you do. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this with me. So I have a tradition. I always like to get the autograph of everyone I interview.
Wow.
So if you don't mind signing your autograph with me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I have a tradition. I was
What?
gift. Don't open it till you leave.
Don't leave. Okay.
And I have something else for you. From one queen to another, I'm going to present to you this crown and sash. This has a meaning. For me, I decided to start doing that because I wanted to remind my ladies that they're queens, they're warriors. No matter what you go through, you're a queen, you're a warrior, you're a champion. So if you ever feel in that space or that mood where you're like thinking about everything and feeling some sort of way, some type of way, you can always look at your crown and your sash and remember that you're a warrior, you're a queen, you beat cancer. Like, do you know what that is? You're a warrior, you're a champion.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
So
This is amazing.
thank you so much.
I love this. It's going up in my studio. Oh my gosh.
And then for your crown.
Crown of beauty instead of ashes.
Yep.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I love.
I'm glad you did.
I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I have a crown of beauty instead of ashes. Oh my gosh, I am the bride. Yes.
Yeah.
I thank you for everything that you do. Not just for me, but for women all over the country. That you go out and love on them and let them know that they're amazing and that they're wonderful and that they're beautiful and that they're powerful. What a great message. What a great thing you do for all of us, because sometimes we just need it a little more than sometimes if we don't. And I needed this today. I needed this today. I needed this. I needed this so much. Thank you. You want to take a picture? Don't cry. I know. I'm going. Please don't drop out.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
You've been amazing. I love your spirit. Like I said, from that voice note I said, I sent it to all my friends. I was like, I need to interview this lady. She brings out so much positive energy. You're such an amazing person, and I would really, really love to keep this friendship.
Me too. Because you're a blessing. You're a blessing. So yes, as God puts blessings in my life, you're one of them. I'm grabbing on and holding on. So, I'm here for good, whether you like it or not.
That's my line. I always say that to people.
Really?
I'm here for good. I'm not going anywhere. Whether you like it or not.
There you go.
Stop with me.
There you go. That's me. That's me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alright guys, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.
It was too much to type out, so I'm just putting this out here. I was in Mary Kay. I was a director of the scripture that was given to me at the time was Psalms 139:14 that says, "We are fearfully and wonderfully made, that his works are too wonderful for us." We know that full well. And so it has always been my dream and my goal and my desire to get in front of as many women as possible and let them know that they're amazing, that they are beautiful, that they are loved, and that within each and every one of us is a God-given dream that's either waiting to be discovered because maybe life happened and you never knew how to dream,
waiting to be remembered because maybe life happened and you forgot about your dream, or you're waiting to be celebrated. And it sounds like that is where you're at right now. You are living out your God-given dream and you need to be celebrated. I love, love, love everything you're doing. I see that crown and I think of the verse, I think it's in Jeremiah or Isaiah, maybe it's Isaiah 61, where he says it gives me a crown of beauty instead of ashes. Like, hallelujah, praise God, that is exactly what you are doing, that you are giving these women a crown of beauty. Thank you so much for stepping out